why did they go to such extents to control and diminish the sovereignty of other nations? What could be the possible reason?
Well, the reasons are pretty simple. They still wanted to benefit economically from the arrangements that they had enjoyed for 100 years. And that is that their domestic economy is dependent on cheap raw materials from Latin America, Africa, and Asia, because those raw materials don't even exist in their country. They don't have forests anymore. They had coal, which helped them through the Industrial Revolution, but do they have cobalt? Do they have aluminium? Do they have any of the basics for 20th and 21st century economies? No, they don't. So they have to import it, but they don't want to pay the full market rate for it. That's bad for business.
Mm-hmm.
They want to keep it as cheap as possible, and the best way to do that is to control the source. And at the same time, if you can acquire a source of raw materials, you generally can also exploit cheaper labor costs there. So you can pay 1/10 or 1/20th of what you would pay domestically. And then you also acquire a market for your finished goods. And this mercantilism has not changed because it's about self-interest. At the end of
Mm-hmm.
the day, no country has any real vision or ideology. It has self-interest. And
Mm-hmm.
self-interest is what motivates actors in international relations. So it's in the self-interest of rich countries to remain wealthy. They don't like change. The current system worked very well for them. If they're wealthy today, if they're stable today, it's because the world works in a way that was designed by them. They would never give that up without a fight. So when they grant independence without a fight, when they weren't kicked out, physically kicked out by a revolutionary force. For example, the Dutch were kicked out of Indonesia by local resistance. That teaches them a lesson. The French were kicked out of Vietnam through violence, through an armed rebellion.
All right.
But in cases where they granted independence, then it's generally a false independence because it was set on their terms and they did what they needed to maintain their interests. And
Rightly
in
said.
the Indian case, we had a very brutal partition. And what did they get out of it? We didn't get much out of the partition. It was they who did, because they got a very loyal client state in the form of
Mm-hmm.
Pakistan, which was very pro-Western, which was open for business for British military officers. So for many years after independence, Pakistan's air force was full of British officers. Their army had British officers. And then they became a very reliable American client state. And
Mm-hmm.
why? They created a wonderful buffer state between India and the Soviet Union and Afghanistan, which was quite pro-Soviet at the time as well, or they were worried it was going to become one. So with that, they got what they needed. They created chaos and civil war in their former colony. The two countries have had 4 wars, so they keep each other busy. You don't need to worry about one of them becoming a regional superpower, because whenever it gets too successful, there's the client state that will cut them down to size.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.